statement to change the password. So actually we executed one callable statement called as get student, which was successfully executed. Then we created a change password.jsp. In this we are trying to ask the user for old and new and confirm password. So there what we had done is we are passing the request from the login page. If you remember carefully, like this is your login page. So if the login is successful, which we are checking from the database, so check password, we return one method that is trying to take username and password, and it's trying to connect to database and trying to check whether username exists or not, password exists or not, and accordingly it is returning a true or false value to me. So depending upon that, we are setting an session now. Okay, so this is an interesting thing, like how we can set a sessions. Okay, session is an object to which you do have a method called as a set attribute, where you can set the attributes for an sessions. So session attributes will generally be in a string format, or you can also assign some object to this. So here uname is a string, so that is the reason, like you see observe here, uname is a string. So I am stating that this is a name value pair now. Okay, so we are trying to get this user in the change password page. Okay, so this is a login page now. Once the session has been set, the session will be alive throughout this login. Okay, so until a user log out or it close the browsers or it is not active for more than some timeout period, then this session will be active. So here if you see in the change password, what I am trying to do is I'm trying to get the session with a get attribute. Okay, and the name of this key is user. Okay, so whoever the user logged in, I will get that particular user now. In the previous class, what we have done is we are not able to see the user name. Okay, I will tell you the reason behind that is this script will execute only upon the action. Okay, means when you click the submit button, then only this will execute. Okay, so for that reason, let us analyze this again. So in the login page, let us run this file. I don't recall what is the database we have given the values, so we'll check it. Strict from login, so where admin is a username and password is hello. So we'll try to log in with the same thing, admin hello. So if you see that upon the successful login, now I'm redirecting this to an change pass.jsp. But if you observe, I'm not seeing any welcome to a specified user like admin. Why? Because this will execute only upon if I fill this data to something, and if I click on change password, then the page refresh and it is trying to see that, okay, it will execute the page at that instance actually. Okay, so if you do have a submit button, then this will do in this particular manner. Okay, but sir, in the previous class when you return the home page, in the home.jsp we did not have any submit button, if you observe carefully. Okay, so directly this script is getting executed now. Okay, so you want to execute a script, JSP script. Okay, that here it doesn't have any submit button. If you observe carefully, we don't have any form or something like that. That's the reason that I made it after login. It is stating that welcome to the user and so on. Okay, that we have passed with the help of an param. Okay, forward, we used a action tag called as an forward action tag, and with the help of that we have forwarded, if you recall carefully. Okay, now but here we are trying to set a session, and we are trying to retrieve the session in the change password.jsp, and we are trying to check whether this session is not equal to null, then welcome the user. So that's the reason that, yeah, upon clicking on this is getting executed. So now sir, I want this to be executed without clicking on a button. Okay, so anyhow the script will get executed every time when it refresh. So that's the reason that if you see this login page, run this login page now. So this is admin, password is HELLO in capital letters, right? So now if you see this, that this page got now executed. Why? Because in the earlier case we written under the condition. Okay, that condition was like, that condition was like something this. Okay, if old is not equal to null, new password is not equal to null, and user is not equal to null. So anyhow user is not null, but these two are null initially. That's the reason this out.println was not executed. Okay, but if I remove this and if I place it over here, then every time the script will execute upon the page refresh. Okay, so now, sir, I want to implement a logout button now. Okay, so what I should do here, somewhere I should write a logout button, where upon the click of that logon button I have to clear the sessions. Okay, so once the sessions are clear, so you have to delete the sessions, session object content. Okay, you have to make the user as null. Then you try to compare that the user is not equal to null, so it will not display the content of that particular page now. Okay, so that is all regarding, your the previous class. Okay, in the current class we are going to see uh, more about JDBC. We'll have a quick review on this. So try to write everything. So try to write whatever the concepts I'm stating you. Okay. So we'll make a quick revision. JDBC overview. What is JDBC? Features, architecture, development process, JDBC data access statements, and Java JDBC transactions. So we'll see, look more about this, what are the transactions and so on. Okay, we'll see that. So JDBC, you are familiar with this, so I have not discussed much about this. What are the features of JDBC? What is the architecture of this? The Java application connected to a JDBC driver, interns connect to a JDBC. There we have in between a JDBC driver manager. Then the call will made to JDBC driver. So the manager will try to connect always to the JDBC driver. Okay. So now, so I try to convert JDBC calls to a specific database calls. That is the reason we can able to connect to Oracle or MySQL or any other databases. Okay. So JDBC driver implementation will be provided by the database vendor, that we call it as a jar file. That jar file we need to download every time we want to connect to some database. Okay, so JDBC driver manager, we have different types of versions into this. Okay, you just go through with this PPT, I will send you this. Okay, so this APIs, already we have seen that there are key classes that are considered here. So this would have two types of packages here, Java SQL and Java X.SQL. This is an advanced version of SQL, Java X package. Okay, which can be used with an advanced Java. Now here in the key classes, we already seen that what is a driver manager classes. Okay, to establish a connection to the, we are writing driver manager dot get connection, is it? So that is trying to return a connection object which we are storing into a connection with the help of a connection class now. Okay, so similarly we do have statement, result set, and data source, and so on. Okay, so these are the key important classes which to have. So the development process, already I told you that this is a 5-step process. Like we are connecting to database, creating a statement, executing a SQL query, then returning a result set, and closing the connection. These are basic general steps which we have seen already. So I will not discuss much about this. Like this is a general syntax for connecting to some different databases.
Hey, Michael Chor.
This is a nuisance you create while listening to the classes. Yeah. Okay, so now in order to connect to database, we need to have a connection string, that we have seen that how to make a JDBC connection. So it followed by JDBC colon followed by a driver protocol. So it's either Oracle or SQL server or MySQL. Then the connection goes in this particular way, and this followed by a host name and port name and followed by the DB name. Okay, this is a general connection strings for 3 databases. So similarly, you can connect to any kind of database. Okay, and if you observe here, the connection string will only change, and the driver manager get connections and all the statements to remains as it is. Okay, so creating a statement object which you are familiar, again executing a query. Okay, we do have execute query, execute, and execute update, 3 different versions. We'll see what is the difference between those things. Okay, so we process the result set. So we are getting a result set. If it is a select query, then we'll go with the result set. Okay, So more about result set we are going to see now. So result set will actually move only in one direction, only in the forward directions. We can also make the result set to move in a reverse order, reverse direction. That is called as a scrollable result set. You try to write it down. Scrollable result sets are nothing but scrollable result set that we can move forward and backward, because as you see here that result set dot next is going for a next row. Similarly you can write result set dot previous, so I try to go to the previous row then. Okay, so you already familiar with like a collection of methods for reading data. We do have get string or get int and so on. We can either provide an index name or we can provide an column name here. Okay, so if you see this, select last name, first name, email from employee. So it is trying to get the column names, and you can also call uh, your return values with the help of a column name. This I told you already. Then closing the connection to avoid an unconditional attacks on your database. So we have to close it successfully with a con.close method. So this is like a general way that how to make a connection and access the data from the statement. The statement dot execute query will try to execute a query and it will return a result set. So execute query is meant for executing a query and returning a result set. So it generally return a result set. That is the reason we are holding that into a result set. If you observe this second one, execute update, it try to update the database with a query. So we'll generally use this in a concept of data modifications like we have seen earlier. Insert, update and delete. It will return how many number of rows that have been affected. So that is an execute update. Okay, and this talking about JDBC result set is to have two ways that you can go with. We can have yeah, this is scrollable result set and non-scrollable result set are there, and read-only result set and updatable result set. You try to write it down. Okay, you try to make a note of this. I will explain you what are all these parameters are. Okay, and when to create this parameter, what is the necessity of all these things are. Okay, so what will happen if I create a statement, that statement by default to have a result set of type forward only and concurrent read only, means we can only make an read only operation on that result set. Okay, means I can't modify the content of that result set. So here what we can do is, so here what I can do is like I can able to uh, create a result set. Okay, so I can retrieve the values which is correspondent to some user. Okay, then I can modify the individual values in a result set, and this whole result set can be updatable to the database. Okay, so what I can do, I can return back this result set. So update the database. Okay, so what will happen, that whatever the values you modified in the result set will be updated to the database. Okay, so that referred to as an uh, updatable result set. Here we do have concept called as sensitive and insensitive. Sensitive in the sense the values which have been modified from the database will be immediately reflecting to the result set is corresponding to sensitive result set. Okay, we'll see all these values. Okay, so this is like statements. We have already seen what is a simple statement, prepared statement and callable statement. So when we use prepared statement, when we have parameter values and those parameters will need to execute, so we need to reuse the prepared statement, then we can make use of an uh, this prepared statement. Okay, so the prepare statement is simply a pre-compiled SQL statement that I told you that would have a question marks. So that uh, is to prevent against the SQL dependency injection attacks. So this is an important concept that I told you, that what happened in the database, if I give a insert query, insert into student values question marks, then it tries to pre-compile the query inside a database and it will only expect these values. Okay, so that is the reason that only values will be modified in this particular query now. Okay, Whereas in the previous case, like we are writing select inside and single quotes, what to happen there, that it every time this query is going to compile in the database. Okay, so that also takes more time. Okay, so this is a SQL statement is pre-compiled. Okay, that is advantage. Okay. Using prepared statement, already we have seen like we can able to replace this static values like we are done in the previous cases. Like we can remove and we can make a question mark here, but we call it as a placeholder. Okay, so we can also use prepared statement for insert, update and delete. So this is a simple example of that how next coming to callable statement. So we can use store procedure that takes parameters of in or in out and out parameter that we have seen. So this is actually completed, that how we can make a call to a store procedure and so on. Okay. Now if you observe here that this is actually trying to connect to MySQL. Okay, here only the string will change, the username and password will change, the URL will change. So this URL reflects that to which database you are connecting. So in this case it is trying to connect to MySQL. Okay, so if you want to connect to Oracle, then URL need to be changed to Oracle database. To creating a store procedure, simply we have seen that. So what is the store procedure is get average salary. So it is trying to get an average salary into an variable called as an average salary, that is an out parameter from the employees where department is something like this. So we are trying to check the average salary for a individual department now. Okay, so here the department will be the in parameter. So suppose if we take CSC, in CSC one assistant professor to have some salary like 1 lakh rupees. Okay, then associate to have some 2 lakhs for example. Okay, then all how many employees are there, assistant, associate or professors. So I want to calculate the average salary for that. Then this simple SQL store procedure can able to do that, and it will return depending upon the department. Okay, so this we have seen I think in your Oracle queries, that a very complex query can also be replaced over here. Okay. So what is the JDBC transactions now? Okay, JDBC transactions are nothing but a transaction is nothing but a database need to update successfully or it need to be rollback. What do you mean by that? Suppose for example you are making a transaction in a database, like you are updating one product table. Okay, we do have one product table here. Okay, where it try to track the products now. Okay, see that I do have a product ID. Okay, product name. Okay, and product cost and count of this. Okay, this product is for example like I'm buying a soap. So the soap is like Santur. Okay, and product cost is like 20 rupees, and in the count means in my store there are around 200 soaps are there for example. Then what I want to make is I want to buy this product around some 20 pieces, and immediately this has to be detected and 180 should be the counter. Meanwhile, while making a transaction, think that this connection lost due to some reason like power cut or some other reason. Then your request has been sent to the database and transaction is being under process, but it's trying to give you a response. Okay, but you are not available now. No, it is an unsuccessful transaction. Okay, so if an unsuccessful transaction, then what should happen? Then I should roll back. Roll back, there is a concept called as a rollback. Are you aware of this in database? In the transactions you have seen acid property. Can someone respond to me? What is acid property in database? What is acid property? Acid, ACID. Are you aware of it?
Atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability.
Is that true that the abbreviation is correct? Atomicity is correct. Consistency, isobel. What do you say? I integration.
Isolation, sir.
Okay. Then
And
this is
durability.
okay. So hope you are aware of this thing concepts. Okay, like in database, why we use this acid property also. Okay. So now I want to roll back the database to an previous instance. Then we have to make a rollback. So for that reason, But JDBC need to support this principle now. A transaction is basically a unit of work. If one or more SQL statement executes together, either all the statements are executed, that we call it as a commit, or none of the statements are executed, we make it as to a rollback. Okay. So JDBC transactions, by default the connection is auto set. Okay. So I need to turn off is explicitly. Okay. What do you mean by this? Like when you are making a connection object, hope you remember, we are making a connection con. Okay, so this connection con object will be by default auto commit. Okay, that is the reason after every insert or update and so on, it's trying to make an auto commit. Okay, so I want to make it false, then I have to go with a method called as a set auto commit to false before going to a transactions. Okay, developer controls the commit or rollback. So it's my turn now that I can make a commit like this con dot commit, or I can control the rollback, means you can try to roll back to the previous state. Okay, so like I can ask the user if it is okay to save, then I will make it commit. If it is not okay to save, then I will make an rollback. Okay, so it depends that whether the transaction we are going to make is have a proper success connection or unsuccess connection. Depending upon that, we can roll back. Okay, so this is all about the transactions, that how transactions can be handled like with the help of commit and rollback. And batch processing now. Okay, what is batch processing? Batch allows you to group related SQL statements into a batch. Okay, what do you mean by related? Like a common type of statements can be combined together and that can be added to a batch and then submit them with one call to the database. What is happening now is, in the normal way, like if it is a simple statement or callable or prepared statement, every time we are trying to connect to database now. Okay, we are making a call. Okay, like if you want to insert some values, okay, like prepared statement you think, so the statement is prepared here with question marks, but every time I want to make a call now, okay, with the values now, with two values, for example roll number and name. Okay, first time I want to insert, then I need to make a call to this. Second time I want to insert, again I need to make a call. Third time again a call. So making a multiple number of calls to a database will take somewhat your bandwidth. If database is located somewhere else in some other country or something like that, then it takes a lot of time to make a connection to the database. Okay, every time I need to make a call. So to avoid such type of things, what I will do is, at the client end is nothing but at my program end, I want to add all the queries, all the queries as one batch. It's very similar like your mom is asking you to buy something from a market. Okay, so think that she's stating every product after 5 minutes. Like you bought milk, then afterwards she's stating like go and bring sugar. Okay, you went again, you bring sugar. Afterwards she's stating that oh, there is no matchbox, go and bring matchbox. So you are making multiple calls to the shop, is it? Okay, so what happened at last, you will get frustrated, is it? Okay, so but here the program will never frustrated, but only the thing is there is a delay in your execution. So what we want to do is, you ask your mom that please state everything in a single instance, I will write it up, and at a time I will go only with one call to the shop and I will bring everything. Okay, it's very similar to that. Like we are trying to make adding an individual statement to a batch, and instead of executing a normal query, we make it to become as an execute batch. Is used to start the execution of all the statements grouped together. So we are grouping all the SQL statements and we are executing it together. Clear batch is to remove all the statements you added to the batch. So this is necessary when you are trying to add some new type of statements into your batch, then you have to clear the batch and you have to prepare it again. Okay, so here this is a batch processing, like create a statement object, then set auto commit to false, that we have seen how to make it, then add as many as SQL statements into the batch, then execute all the SQL statements with an execute batch method. Okay, then finally commit all the changes. This is necessary because I made it auto commit to false, then I have to make the commit at my way. So this is, if you see that we are making that auto commit to false, and we are trying to write some, means prior to this there is one query which is taking two parameters now, one is string, one is a number. So I'm trying to add this everything to the batch, and we are executing the batch here. Okay, so this we'll see, we have a program on this, we'll check it. Okay, so then con dot commit, then sort set auto commit to true. Why? Because other connections can be auto committed then. Okay, so batch with string query. Okay, you can execute multiple kind of queries, like one type insert, one time uh, again insert, update, delete. So it will execute in an order now. Okay, so all these are trying to update the database. Okay, so it returns me, execute batch will returns me an array of count that have been affected. For example, this insert has affected one row, this infected, it is has been affected one row. Suppose this update has updated two rows, then it returns two. This delete has deleted some three rows from a database, so it will return an array now. So after batch execution, it will return an array type. That is the reason I'm holding that into an update count. Okay, right. So this can be with a normal statement, or this can be with a prepared statement and so on. Okay, but I think I did not went with an callable statement. I need to do an experiment, but I have checked with both statement and prepared statement, this batch processing. Okay, so I think it's also possible for the callable statement, you can call multiple store procedures at a time. So now this is regarding updatable result set. Okay, we'll see an example that how this result set can be. So what is updatable result set now? So here what we are going to see is a result set as updatable. So as I told you that a updatable result set and scrollable result set, we'll see both these things. Okay, so result set object as updatable and scrollable, we must use the following constants which represent in the result set interface. So when we are trying to make a result set, we have to give these values under a statement. Okay, such that the result set will become sensitive and updatable. Okay, sensitive in the sense you can move in either the directions, and the data will be updatable in that. Okay, so if you see this result set object, and it allows retrieving the data only in forward direction, such type of result set is known as non-updatable or non-scrollable result set. So this might be a question in your examination, like what are the kinds of result sets, then you can state that result sets can be of non-updatable and non-scrollable. Okay, and it can be updatable and scrollable. Okay, so and it can be have a combination of that. So that depends on the values that you have been providing over here. Okay, so I want to make it both scrollable and updatable, then I have to provide these values constants. Okay, so with the result set which is having a updatable operation, then I can do these three operations on my database. Like I can insert a new record, I can delete a record from the data result set which will be affecting your database, and you can update the record in a result set. Result set is nothing but it's like a table which you have retrieved the values from the database. Okay, so what we are trying to do, we are trying to modify the values here, which actually modify the values in my database. Okay, so that is all about the updatable results. So here we'll see that uh, how we can insert a record into a result set object. Okay, so we can insert the records into database through result set object using absolute method. Okay, so just before going to insert the record, first we need to decide at which position you are inserting the values. Okay, so we are trying to, because you are trying to move now randomly. Okay, means I want to insert a record at the third row for example. Okay, then initially rs.next will go in a sequential order as I told you. Okay, so I want to go to the third record, then I have to write three number of times rs.next, rs.next, rs.next. Okay, but whereas if it is an uh, scrollable result set, what is even a scrollable result set means you can move either in the forward direction or in the backward direction, or you can access the rows in a random way. So this is way that you can access the rows in a random way. Okay, so rs dot absolute of 3 will try to go to a position of 3 in the row, and since we are inserting a record, we must use the following method to make the result set. So what we are trying to do is uh, here there is rs dot move to the insert row. So this is a method move to insert row. So it is trying to move to the row where we want to insert. So these are the methods which are responsible for inserting the records into a result set. Okay. So then we write an rs dot update. So this is actually trying to update the database. Okay. So we'll see an example on this, that how we can do this. Okay. So up to step 3, the data is inserted into result set object and whose data must be inserted into the database permanently by calling the following method. Okay. So here there is a method called as an insert row. So prior to this we are just making the result set. Okay, here in the result set we are making the changes now. Okay, means we are moving to the third row and we are making the first column as 5. Okay, then second column as abc and the third column as 80. Okay, so there is some table I think so which do have these values. Okay, so this is like employee id, employee name and salary I think so. So here we are updating that in the only in the result set we are updating. So I want to make a commit on my database, then I have to call a method which is in the step 4. You can observe this insert row is a method to insert it into a database. So it actually throws an exception, so we need to handle that exception or we can throw that. Okay, this is all about inserting into where, inserting into an database with the help of a result set. Okay, similarly you can delete a record through a result set, which is again very similar. We can move on to that value position where you want to delete the data, which row, then we can write it as rs dot delete row. Then so that actually will delete the row. Okay, where we have to specify the row number. Okay, right. So here similarly we do have updating a record through result set. Updating is nothing but we can update it to a corresponding value. So row number 2, so already there exists a row number 2 now, row 1, row 2. So we are trying to modify the value. Okay, for row number 2 there is some existing value. I'm changing the existing value to pqr and value of third column to 91. Okay, so generally this will be a primary key in our database that I need to show that this only record has to be updated now. Okay, then there is a method called as an update row. So you can see that rs dot insert row to insert the rows, rs dot delete row to delete a row, and rs dot update row to update the row in a database into your result set, which actually reflect into the database. Okay, so this is uh, this is according to your uh, scrollable and updatable result set. Okay, and we'll see what is the scrollable result set now. In the previous case we have seen both the things. One is called as an what, scrollable as well as updatable. Now we'll see that if I want to make a uh, result set to move in both the directions, move forward and backward direction, then I can make the data set result set as a scrollable result set. Okay, so while creating a statement we can provide these values now. Okay, which is one is int type and int mode. Okay, if it is 1 then it makes that type forward only. Okay, okay, if I make it as 2 then insensitive, if I make it as 3 then read only mode. Okay, we'll see this how we can do that. Or because as this is the constant values, you can provide something like this integer values, or you can write the constant directly from that enumeration type. Okay, so this is a better way to do that because we can able to check that what we are doing now. So result set dot type underscore scroll insensitive. So here insensitive is nothing but it doesn't try to make the modifications from database immediately to reflect into our result set. So that reflects to the insensitiveness. So result set dot type we can provide a scrollable. Okay, which is here scrollable insensitive, and we can make it as a read only, or this parameter will be either read only or updatable. So if I want to make it only read only, then I can provide this as read only. We'll also see this example on this. Okay, so it provides different methods like this now. Okay, if my result set is scrollable, then the following methods can be available. That is next, to move to the next row. First, before first, it is used for making the result set objects to point to just before the first record. Okay, so just before the first record it is by default actually. Okay, So is first, it returns true when rs is pointing to the first record, otherwise false. Okay, so if I want to check whether my result set is pointing to the first record or last record or what, then I can do so. So first will point to the first object in the record, in the data, in the result set. For is first before, these are all the methods. Okay, previous means it will go to the, means we are just trying to make it like a pointer now. Okay, the current pointer will always be at the first. Okay, so if I give next, then it will give to the, go to the next. Okay, if I go previous, then previous to this is first again, so it will go to first. Okay, so it see the current position of your cursor. Okay, over here I can call it as a cursor. So I want to point this to some number. Okay, then I can move that with the help of an absolute. Okay, I want to jump to the row number 18 for example, then I can give rs dot absolute of 18, then it will go to the absolute value. Okay, this absolute can hold an integer value which can also be negative. Negative in the sense it will move in a backward direction. So this can throw an exception, because if you want to try to access the records which are, you are, if your cursor is at first position, you are trying to access the previous one, then it can throw an exception that need to be taken care. Okay, so this is all about result sets, how result sets can be updatable and how it can be scrollable. Okay, so we'll see in practical on this now. So I created a simple java program for this. In the same way you can also go with uh, you can go with the JSP program. Okay, so we see scrollable result set. So now we are trying to make a connection to the database. Okay, with a driver name, registering the driver this is, then making a connection with a connection string, then we observe this thing. Okay, can anyone tell me what is this now? Scroll insensitive in the sense it will scroll uh, in an, in both the directions, no? Okay, in forward and backward direction, means it become the result set as scrollable result set. And the conquer read only in the sense you can't update now the result set, means the result set is only read only. Okay, so which query I am executing now? Select asterisk from student. So let us see what is the content of student is. Select asterisk from student. There are around 3 rows, B19CS002 ABC002, like this. Okay, so let us insert into student values B19CS 003. Can I know who is 003 is?
Sasidhar,
Yes,
sir.
Sashi. So I want to make a commit, because by default it will not commit. So now let us see this. This is, now we have 4 rows in the data, in the database with the student table. So records in the table, we are trying to fetch all the records now. Okay, so 1 is actually the roll number and the 2 is the name. Okay, is trying to fetch the name and roll number now. So rs dot first. So what is rs dot first? Means it is trying to go to the first now. Okay, because the cursor is again moved to the last one actually with the rs dot next, but we are trying to move the cursor to the first row, so it has to print me the first row now. Absolute of 3, can anyone tell me what is this absolute of 3 is? What is absolute of 3? Just now I told you what it is. If I wrote absolute of 4, are you listening to class? Around 55 members are there. very simple, like you are use your pointers, okay, to move across your arrays, okay. So here absolute in the sense it tries to move to a specified number, okay. So here the number is 3 means it will go to the third row, okay. If it is 4, then the cursor will move to the fourth row, and we are trying to get the string out of that fourth row, okay. So here no more it is the third row, no, this will be fourth row, okay. Last in the sense it will go to the last one, okay. Previous it will go uh, last but one, okay. Rs dot relative of -1, if you move to the last to the first, okay. So that relative position we can specify. So these are all the methods which are available, okay. So if you give rs dot, then you see that after first, before first, okay, then first. So these many number of methods are there inside of your result set, okay. That makes a very effective result set, we can do it, okay. So actually the less number of calls to database is an effective program now. So you should not have to be call multiple number of times to a database, okay, for every transaction, okay. So you have to minimize the connection to your database, that you need to take care, okay. So if I run this, run the file, now you see that connecting to database records in the table are like uh, 002 is ABC, 3 is Sashi, 2 is Sisra, and 1 is yeah, actually 1 is Sisra actually, but I think we have modified that with the update, okay. So no, 1 is EE. So the first record, what the first record is, this will become the first record. Now if you see that order, so what about order? No, it is not in an order. So it follows the same way, okay. Whatever the you are executing the query here, that will go in a very similar fashion here, okay. So because I insert 003, so you have to state me that why it is coming something over here. Why not it has been displayed at last or at first, okay. You find out and you tell me, okay, right. So now if you see this, the first row is 002 that we displayed. The fourth row, the fourth record is 1 and E, that is this one, okay. And the last record is again this one only, okay. Last to the first record, okay. Last to the first, last to the first is nothing but this is first, okay. If this become the last to the first, then this has to be displayed. So this is the last to the first record that is there, okay. So that this is a way we can able to scroll inside a database. Suppose sir, if you don't write this, if you don't specify this, if you simple state create a statement, then what will happen? What it is throwing? Can you tell me what is that? Are you there? Okay, anyone out of 54 members? What does it mean? Read it.
SQL
Exception.
exception.
Yeah,
Exception.
It's an exception, sir.
what it is stating? It is stating that it is not scrollable result set. You have not set the properties that it become scrollable result set, no. If it is not scrollable means it is a non-scrollable result set, means you can't move forward or backward or as your wish, Okay, you can't perform these operations like first, okay, previous and so on. So it is stating an exception to me that I called first. So this should be only called upon when the result set is a scrollable result set. When it becomes scrollable result set, one is specify these properties. Okay, are you clear? This is read only, means if you want to perform an update onto this result set, it will not happen. Why? Because I stated that the result set should be only read only. Okay, is it clear? Okay, then we'll see updatable result set. No, it's very simple. Again, trying to connect to database with a driver manager. Okay, and making establish a connection with URL. Now here if you see this, type is scroll sensitive, means the data need to be modified into the database and it has to be immediately reflect to my result set, that is sensitive. And result set dot conquer updatable. What do you mean by conquer updatable? Means now that result set can be updatable now. Okay, now there is a condition here, please remember this. You can't provide asterisk here. You have to be specific one if you want to update to a database, to your data set, that is your database table. So if I use asterisk here, then it will throw an error without a where condition. Select asterisk from student. If I wrote something like this only without a condition, then it will throw an exception for me. Okay, uh, that how can I know that exceptions? Because SQL will throw in warnings, that I can take an object of SQL warnings, and those warnings can be stored it, and I can display those warnings with the help of an, there are some methods which states that get SQL state, get error code, which will get the error codes for us. Okay, so get next warning, will try to iterate that and it will try to get all the warnings which are there. Okay, so where these warnings will be, this will be in the log file of Oracle. Okay, so there will be logs which are maintained upon your databases. So actually if something happens to my database, then I have to check the log and have to roll back depending upon the log. So it's a very big tedious task for database administrator to look upon those logs. So there are many number of tools which actually try to monitor the logs and try to state the health of your database. These are very in detail concept that what I am explaining you is. Okay, try to open up and try to fetch all these things and try to listen these things very carefully. Learning the database is more and more and more important. Okay, so whether it may be an SQL database or no SQL database, now the trend is towards no SQL database. So to see what is a no SQL database is, okay, what are the different kinds of no SQL database are there. Okay, try to learn any one among them. Okay, such that you can become industry ready. Okay, so don't dive in all the technologies like you want to know IoT, you want to know AI, you want to know databases, you want to know multiple number of things. Instead of that, try to take a, a particular domain, a particular technology, and try to be master into that. Suppose if you want to become machine learning expert, then only check with the Python and the libraries which are there in machine learning and try to go with that. Okay, that is my advice. Right, so here it will throw in exceptions, the warning will be thrown, so we can, according to the warning, we can browse and we can check it. Now rs.next will actually try to read the first row, and we are trying to update a string now, update the string of first column. So if I want to make it to become 003, just revert it back because there is no time, I have to go back. Okay, so you try that with an asterisk. I'll forward you all these programs along with the change password, JSP and so on after this class. So here we are trying to modify only one row which is corresponding to roll number 002. One is not there, I think so. Yeah, one is not there, so I am just moving out to 002. Okay, and rs.next will read that row actually, and I am trying to modify, update the string of column number 1. means the roll number to 006 for example. Okay, so better I update it to like 001, again revert back. Then rs dot update row, what does it do actually? So this statement I was talking in the ppt, like this update the result set to database. Okay, so it tried to actually, this is corresponding to that. This update string will only update the string inside of a result set. Okay, then similarly move to insert row. Okay, then we are trying to insert a new row. Okay, like for example 005. Who is 005? Are you there? 4 is on hold, 5 is there, you're not responding. Roll number 6, tell me. 6 is also not there. Okay, session is getting recorded, that is the reason I'm not stating anything. Like I will give as an uh, see. Okay, then we are trying to insert that row. So this insert row in db. Okay, so similarly you can go with and delete, that I told you that there is a delete row, so that you can perform on your database. Okay, so try to run the file. It's trying to connect to database and one row is updated. Why? Because here I given system.out after this update row, so one row is updated, row is inserted again. So we'll try to check with the database now. That this has been modified now, one is become abc. So this why the two here, there is also two but it's not affected. Why? Because we are trying to only modify the rs.next, means rs.next will read only one row. Okay, if I do this thing again, like if I copy this again and if I perform the operation, because rs.next is will going to read me only the one row, and that one row I am going to modify now. Okay, right. So that is all about updatable result sets. Okay, so similarly we can go with an batch processing. So tomorrow class will I'll just make it that batch processing, and we'll see. Okay, wait for a while. We'll go with this.